Most people think they know how much they spend. They round up, estimate, make a mental note, and they feel like they're being pretty good about it. But then the end of the month hits. The balance is lower than expected. The credit card is higher than usual, and the first reaction is confusion. Where did it all go? The answer is almost always the same. It didn't go anywhere obvious. It went into the drain you couldn't see, because modern spending is invisible by design. You don't hand over cash anymore. You tap, you swipe, you subscribe, you auto-pay, you forget. Money leaves without friction, without you ever really feeling it leave. And that's the point. Digital transactions are smooth on purpose. They're built to reduce resistance. No pain, no pause, no memory. You're not counting bills. You're not holding receipts. You're not reminded of the weight of what you're giving up. And that invisibility creates a gap, not between income and expenses, but between action and awareness. You might think you spent $100 today, but it was really $127.84, and tomorrow it'll be another unrounded $46.50. The mental math never catches up. It's not because you're bad at budgeting. It's because the system you're operating in is built to make spending feel forgettable. Auto-renewals, small tips, micro-purchases, bundles, fees that don't notify, one-click checkouts. Each one feels like nothing, but together they move quietly until the damage is visible. If you've ever looked back at your bank statement and felt like a stranger wrote it, that's not a flaw in your memory. It's a feature of your environment. And unless you name this pattern, it will keep winning. You can't fix what you don't see. And modern spending is designed to make you not see. Every overspending story starts small. $4 for coffee, $9 for a delivery fee, $6 for an add-on you didn't plan, $12 for a subscription you forgot you even had. Individually, harmless. Collectively, destructive. We tell ourselves it's just a little. And that phrase becomes a shield. It excuses every tap, every click, every why not. But the math doesn't care how harmless something felt. If you make 20 just a little decisions in a week, which isn't hard, that's easily $150 gone without intention. And that's just the visible part. The dangerous part isn't the price. It's the pattern. We've been trained to filter spending by size, not by frequency. We react strongly to a $300 splurge, but barely notice $20 a day vanishing in 5-second decisions. You wouldn't drop $600 on nonsense in one go, but spread across 30 days in tiny transactions, you won't even feel it. And companies know that. That's why the most profitable business models today revolve around small, frictionless, forgettable payments. Streaming platforms, delivery apps, micro upgrades, freemium games, all designed to make each moment feel affordable. Even generosity gets pulled in, rounded up donations, tips on autopilot, service fees preset before you think, and none of it feels like real money, because your brain doesn't log it the way it logs cash or large single purchases. By the time you feel the effect, it's too late to track where it came from. It's just a vague sense of, I shouldn't be this low on money. But the truth is, it didn't happen all at once. It happened $10 at a time. The only way to stop it isn't to fear every purchase. It's to stop believing the story that's small, unsafe. Because what's small once becomes routine. And routines, not one-offs, shape your bank account. There was a time when spending money meant feeling it. You handed over cash. You saw the bills leave your wallet. You watched your change come back. It was tactile, real, grounded. Today, you tap your phone. You get a vibration. You walk away with a coffee and no memory of parting with $6. We've turned money into light and pixels. And while that's convenient, it's also dangerous. Because when you stop feeling your spending, you stop registering its weight. There's no pause, no resistance, no sense of loss. It becomes just another motion, like unlocking your screen or liking a post. But under that convenience is a system that numbs your awareness. Auto-filled cards, Face ID payments, subscriptions that activate without a second step, delayed payment options like buy now, pay later. It all adds up to one thing. You're spending before your brain has time to notice. And when you spend without emotional friction, your internal checks disappear. You don't ask, do I really need this? You don't feel the stretch. You just move on. That disconnection makes it incredibly hard to remember what you spent. Not just the total, but even the act itself. You think, I only grabbed lunch. But forget the in-app tip, the delivery markup, the drink you added at checkout. And this isn't about being irresponsible. It's about operating in a world that removes feeling from financial choices. The result? You become excellent at justifying small transactions and terrible at recalling them. By the time you try to get back on track, you're unsure where the track even was. Awareness doesn't come from knowing numbers. It comes from reconnecting the action of spending with the feeling of decision. Because if it doesn't register emotionally, it won't register at all.
Even if you're trying to stay on top of your spending, there's one problem you probably don't see. Your brain is always a few steps behind your money. Here's what that looks like. You spend $12 on a snack and forget about it in 10 minutes. Later that day, you buy groceries and only remember the $60 receipt. Then, you Venmo a friend $20 for dinner, but it hasn't left your bank yet, so your brain doesn't count it. And somewhere between all of that, a $7 subscription renews quietly in the background. Individually, none of these feel huge, but together, they create a gap between what you think you've spent and what you've actually spent. This is what I call the mental lag, the delay between your financial behavior and your mental accounting, and it's completely normal. Your brain isn't built to do real-time budgeting. It's built for survival, focus, short-term problem-solving, not micro-tracking. 27 scattered transactions per week add stress, distraction, exhaustion, and that lag gets even worse. Because when your cognitive load is high, tracking tiny expenses feels like too much. So your brain compresses. It rounds down. It skips. It says, we spent around $50 today, when it was closer to 83. You don't notice it right away, but the balance does. Then by week's end, you're looking at your bank account, wondering how it dropped so fast. It's not sabotage, it's cognitive overload, and no amount of discipline can override that unless you account for the lag. That might mean checking your balance more often, or writing purchases down, not to judge, just to anchor, or using systems that notify you, track for you, or pause you before spending. Your brain isn't bad with money. It's just not built to manage this kind of invisible, non-stop, digital spending environment without help. It's not a flaw. It's a design limit. And once you understand that, you stop blaming your memory and start building tools that support your mind where it lags.
There's another reason you don't remember how much you spent. It's not because you're careless. It's because part of you doesn't want to know. This is the quieter side of overspending, not impulsivity, avoidance. You avoid checking your balance after a rough day. You skip opening your banking app all weekend. You tell yourself you'll sit down and get organized next week. You already know the number won't look good, so you buy yourself a little peace by not looking. It's not denial in the dramatic sense. It's gentle, strategic, emotional self-protection. You push off checking because seeing the truth would make you feel ashamed, anxious, or out of control. And you're already dealing with enough. But here's the trap. The longer you don't look, the more stressful it becomes. And the more stressful it feels, the harder it is to look. So you avoid, then spiral, then overspend again. Not because you don't care, but because facing it feels like too much. This is why people stay in cycles for years. Not from a lack of intelligence, but from the weight of unprocessed fear around money. If every financial check-in becomes a shame spiral, you'll do anything to avoid it. Even if that means losing hundreds just to not feel bad. But shame is not strategy. And looking doesn't make it worse. It makes it real. You don't need to obsessively track every penny. You just need to stop treating awareness like a punishment. It's not a courtroom. It's a mirror. And yes, sometimes you won't like the reflection, but seeing it is the first step to changing it. When you let yourself look gently, without judgment, the pressure eases, and slowly, the habit of checking becomes a form of care, not control. A lot of people think the solution to their spending confusion is better math, more precise budgets, tighter spreadsheets, apps with categories and pie charts and percentage breakdowns. But clarity isn't about numbers. It's about rhythm. You don't need more formulas. You need more moments where you see what's happening before it spirals. Clarity comes from tiny, regular habits, not heroic willpower once a month. It looks like checking your account every morning for 15 seconds. It looks like writing down one thing you bought today. It looks like noticing, hey, I've spent $40 on delivery this week already, before you hit the next order again button. This isn't about control. It's about connection. When you reconnect to your spending, not with shame but with interest, things shift. You remember where your money went because you were there for it. You paused long enough to notice, and that pause is everything. You don't have to eliminate your coffee, or cancel every subscription, or become the kind of person who tracks down to the cent. You just have to stop being a stranger to your own money. And the best way to do that? Build a check-in habit that fits who you actually are, not what works for finance influencers, not what a budgeting app told you, but what you can come back to, even on a chaotic day. Maybe it's a sticky note on your mirror. Maybe it's a Sunday reset. Maybe it's one notification that nudges you without shaming you. Whatever it is, make it yours. Because when you stop thinking clarity comes from discipline and start realizing it comes from attention, everything softens. You'll spend smarter not because you tried harder, but because you stayed in the loop. And that's what changes your money. Not control, not guilt. Just quiet, repeatable presence. If this video made something click for you, consider subscribing. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next one and leave a comment. Even just a thanks or your own